And there we go. It's an appreciation for fathers and for father figures. And if you have someone in your life, if your father has been a good father to you, be grateful. Thank God for your father. Thank God for that man in your life who takes the time to be there for you, takes the time to love you, makes the sacrifices. He may not be perfect. He may sometimes make mistakes. He may be a little stubborn, and he may be a little weird. But the truth be told, if he was there in love for you, you are blessed. Blessed. Because there are many people who may desire that their father be such a good father. If you don't have such a father, but you have a father figure, a man who is there for you, a grandfather, an uncle, a friend, a mentor, a teacher, a pastor, whoever. They were there for you, looking out for you, for your best interest in mind. If they were there for you doing things that there was no possible way you could pay them back at that time, and they still gave, be grateful. Thank God for that. One of my favorite passages is in Philippians, where Paul is writing to the Philippians, and he says, I thank my God every time I think of you. And so for the father figures and for the fathers, we thank our God every time we think of you. But most especially today. Fathers have gotten a bad rap. You know, in Spanish, Father's Day, I think, is called Dia de los Perros, right? Day of the dogs, right? It's kind of rough. Fathers have gotten a bad rap in society. And if you notice, if you watch TV, the fathers that are in families are usually, they're pretty dumb. They're usually a comic relief, you know. You rarely see fathers in TV that are actually, you know, smart and good. Usually they're good, but they're kind-hearted, but they're a little not so much there. You know, fathers have been given a bad rap, you know. And I've been thinking about movies, and I've been thinking about, you know, where can I have good examples? And there have been good examples of fathers in movies, and there have also been good examples of father figures in movies. One example I can think of was the Karate Kid, right? Mr. Miyagi and Daniel's son, right? Mr. Miyagi was a father figure to Daniel. Right? Daniel needed somebody. He didn't have his father with him for whatever reason. And Mr. Miyagi, for whatever reason, touched his heart, stepped in, and decided to take care, raise, in a way that Daniel was not aware that he was raising him, but to raise him, to give him confidence, to give him courage, and ultimately to allow him to, in a critical moment of his life, fight his own fight, to take the stand, and to live for himself. And he gave him that opportunity. I couldn't come up with a more recent one. I know you're like the Karate Kid. But there have been other instances where in The Lion King you have, I know this is a lion, but it's still father. In The Lion King you have Mufasa and Simba. And Mufasa has passed away. And Simba is at a point where he has a vision of Mufasa, a sort of memory of him in the clouds. And Mufasa again says to Simba, essentially, I will not fight your fights. You have to remember who you are. You are my son, the one true king. And in both instances, and in many others, we see that fathers and father figures, at the critical moment with their children, do not fight their fights, but say, I have given you all that you need to make the tough choices, to live your life, to be responsible, and to give glory and honor by the way you live to God. At critical moments, fathers, they care for their children, they sacrifice for their children, they provide for their children, they give them good examples, but at these critical moments they say, at this point, you have to fight this fight for you and for others. And I leave it to you. I have given you everything you got. And now, it's your moment for such a time as this. All right. We have the book of Esther. And I know that Esther's a book in the Bible that people, when they were writing the Bible, they had no clue why it was in the Bible. Right? It's a book with parties and craziness, and it's a wonderful book, but it's one, if you ever read the book of Esther, you're like, how did this thing get in the Bible, right? And the passage we have is we have a poor messenger running from inside the palace all the way outside the gates. They didn't have telephones at this time. So if they had telephones, they would call each other up, Mordecai and Esther. Mordecai is a father figure to Esther. And he says to Esther a critical line. Who knows that you were made queen for such a time as this? Now, I need to give a little context because y'all might not know the story of Esther. The story of Esther goes something like this. The Jews are in Persia, and because they're in Persia, they're in exile. So they got kicked out of Jerusalem by the Babylonians, and many, many, many years later, the Persians defeated the Babylonians, and so to the victor go the spoils, and so the Persians now have everything the Babylonians have, including Jewish folk, right? Exiles from Jerusalem. The Persians allowed the Jews to go back to Jerusalem, but Jerusalem was destroyed, so there was really nothing to go back to. So a lot of the Jews did not go back to Jerusalem. Instead, they stayed in Persia, which is where we find Esther and Mordecai. Esther and Mordecai are Jews who are now living in Persia, and so although they are Jewish, they nonetheless have picked up some of the Persian habits. You may be from your home country, but when you get to New York has a way of getting into you, and you picked up some of the habits of New York City, right? And so that's how it was. It came about that there was a king in Persia. King Xerxes was a wild man. He was insecure, egotistical, arrogant, and he wanted to have a party to show off how rich he was. And so when he has this party, he says, spare no expense, bring everybody from Manhattan, from the Bronx, from Brooklyn, from Queens. You know what? Invite folks from Staten Island. Bring them all. Right? Just bring them. I need to show them how much money I have. This was one of those parties where the person doesn't care about you having a good time. The person just wants you to say, there's no way I can afford that. That was the King Xerxes party. King Xerxes says, whatever people want to eat, let them eat to their full. Whatever they want to drink, let them drink to their full. It's all you can eat. I want everyone asleep because of how full they got themselves. Huge party. And he's having this party to show off. And he has his rulers and his governors there. And essentially men amongst men trying to show who's the biggest gorilla in the jungle. Right? Who can hit their chest the hardest. This is essentially what this is. Gorillas showing off to each other in the jungle. And Xerxes finally gets to a point where he's very inebriated and full of himself. And he says, you know what? I want to do something. He did not know that his wife did not want to be a part of this party, because the guys get a little wild at this party. So his wife decides to have a party of her own, somewhere out in Jersey. So she has a party of her own out in Jersey with all the women who work in the kingdom, or all the women who are not on duty today. She has a party on her own. Her name is Vashti. She's a dignified woman, a strong woman, a self-respecting woman, and unfortunately she's married to the richest, most powerful gorilla in the jungle. Xerxes gets it in him to say, I want to show off. Although I have many servants to do my bidding, I want my wife to get me something to show you all how strong I am. He orders his wife to come from Jersey to his party to get him something. Something like, get me a drink, get me some food. Vashti refuses. The governors now look at Xerxes, and they kind of give him this look. Wait a minute, your wife did not listen to what you said? So now feeling insecure, feeling like his pride got hurt, Xerxes is furious with Vashti that he dethrones her. You know what? You're no longer queen, to show off in front of the governors. More than that, the governors are saying, if you don't do this, everywhere we go, wives will not respect their husbands throughout the nation of Persia. You better do something about this. And so not only does he dethrone her, he sends out an edict in every language they knew, saying, wives, obey your husbands. So there was one in Spanish, Tagalog, Korean, Hindi, Japanese, Yiddish, Hebrew, Greek, this other Greek, every language. It looked like the voting booths in New York City, right? They sent it out, and all that was on the edict was, wives, obey your husbands. Why? Because the king got his pride hurt. There's no queen now. There's no queen. And so the king can't have a queen. He needs a queen. I mean, he has a big banquet. He needs a queen to show off. That's what he needs. So what do you know? A position opened up in the kingdom. Now, we come to find out that there's a man, a Jew, named Mordecai. There's a girl, his cousin, named Esther. Esther's mother and father died. Mordecai took it upon himself to raise her. Mordecai, we're not told has a wife. We don't know. Matter of fact, he probably doesn't. So Mordecai's a single father of not really this girl's father, but now he's going to be this girl's father and raise this little girl. I can imagine her with her little pigtails showing up looking at this strange man. And now he's going to take